and greetings. Thank you for tuning in. I would just like to make a video here about what is the solution to the problem in our community dealing with sexual abuse, specifically of children, but really sexual abuse in general. But we're dealing with children right now. In the case of Brother Polight, who is going through his trial / alleged plea deal, whatever it is, right? But I want to talk about what can we do as a solution to this problem rather than just talking about the problem after the fact or to prevent it from occurring in the first place. So first, let's look at a few facts here in this article. It says facts about sexual abuse in the African American community. So let's just get to these bullet points. Below, Stone shares 10 facts about sex abuse in the African American community. Point 1, it's more common than you think. In surveys of adults, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men report that they were sexually abused as a child. Next, it's a black thing too. Many African Americans think that child sexual abuse is more typical among white people. Statistics show that blacks are sexually victimized in childhood at about the same rates as whites. Near and present danger. 2/3 of all victims of sexual assault reported to the police were under 18. In nearly 95% of the cases, the offender was a family member or acquaintance. So that's something we need to remember there. A family member or an acquaintance. That's important to note. Rich or poor, poverty, which contributes to violence in many communities, is not seen as a risk factor for child sexual abuse. Abuse is more likely to be reported among low-income families, but is virtually undetected in families whose money or status shield them from authorities. Race matters. African American women are less likely than white women to involve police in cases of child sexual abuse. Fears about betraying the family by turning abusers into, quote unquote, the system, and distrust of institutions and authorities often lead blacks to remain silent about, quote unquote, family business. So I'm gonna just interject here. That is BS. If somebody in your family is sexually abusing you, you're not betraying the family by turning them in. That's just the facts. So let's continue. Boys are also abused. About 14% of all young victims of sexual assault are male, according to police reports. 20% of sexual abuse of boys is committed by women. Among African Americans, homophobia perpetuates the denial of sexual abuse of boys. So I think in this sense, this is one of the only times they use that word that it actually makes sense to me. In other words, they're afraid of being somehow associated with being a homosexual because they were abused by a man, right? Cause and effect. Black women report being more severely abused with greater force. They also report, quote, more upset, greater long-term effects, and more negative life experiences, end quote, from sexual abuse than white women. Among the effects, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, substance abuse, drug abuse, self-mutilation, and more. Young and troubled. Adolescents commit 23% of all sex offenses. Experts say young abusers are more responsive to treatment than adults. So there's a lot of info here, but we almost done with that. Let me just skip to the last point, quiet as it's kept, because then I want to get to the solution, or a solution for this problem to prevent it from happening in the first place. Quiet as it's kept, child sexual abusers operate in silence and isolation. The tools they use to target and control their prey. Few tend to be violent, which makes them difficult to catch and thwart. All right. So in other words, they're slick. They don't abuse violently all the time. And so it makes it harder to detect. I guess I'll go and read this one too. Prolific predators. child sex offenders tend to victimize more often than other sexual offenders. 70% of child sex offenders had between 1 and 9 victims. 23% between 10 and 40 victims. So I'm not sure the date of this article. Let me scroll up, see if they got the date on here, so we can know approximately when they was quoting these stats. Okay, so I don't actually see the date. But anyway, more or less, these are the facts about these stats. So let's see if there is a biblical solution to this problem. All right, Leviticus chapter 18. So for now, I'm going to X out the right side, then I'll open it back up. All right, so now we're coming at the King James Version, and then in a little bit I'm going to add the New American Standard Bible to it as well. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the Lord your God. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall ye not do. Neither shall ye walk in their ordinances. So that's why we're not trying to go back into this Egyptology, because the Most High is showing us right here that in Egypt, they were doing all of these things that I'm about to read to you that God said we should not do. All right? He says, Ye shall do my judgments and keep mine ordinances to walk therein. I am the Lord your God. So I'm going to just get straight down to it. This chapter talks about adultery in all its forms of incest, right? But we're going to get straight to the point. How do we prevent things like what happened with Brother Polight, and his 14-year-old almost stepdaughter? I'm saying that because he wasn't technically married to that woman, or is not technically married to her. So his almost stepdaughter. Let's see. Verse 17. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter. Do we see that? Now, it didn't mention her age. Understand, the Most High is telling you not to do that regardless of the age of the daughter. So I'm telling you that if you are a man and you're with a woman, whether, preferably it'll be your wife, but whether she your wife, fiance, girlfriend, whatever, don't have sex with that woman and then have sex with her daughter too. That's what God is saying. Even if the woman is 42 and her daughter is 21, over 18, you still not supposed to touch a woman and her daughter. And if you see two women and you attracted to both of them that much, and it's mother and daughter, you probably need to go the other way. Or you need to make a decision. Who you gonna try to be with? Because you can't be with both of them. And if you do, if you get both of them pregnant, think of how twisted and ugly that family tree would be. Say that you had two sons, one son by the woman and the other son by her daughter. So one brother would have to look at the other and say, hey, my brother's mother is my sister. And then the son that comes from the daughter would have to look at his brother and say, my brother's mother is my grandmother. Do you see and hear how twisted that sounds? Let's continue. Neither shalt thou take her son's daughter. So if she has a son and he has a daughter, don't mess with her granddaughter either. That's what it's saying. Or her daughter's daughter, right? To uncover her nakedness, regardless of their ages, right? For they are her near kinswomen. It is wickedness. That's what that is. So if Brother Polight is indeed guilty of what he's accused of, it is wickedness. But since he didn't believe in the Bible, see, he wouldn't want to obey this verse. But I'm telling you right now, this one verse can prevent this child sexual abuse that's going on, because a lot of time it's going to be committed by a stepfather. And again, I'm not saying that just because somebody is a stepfather, that means they're a child predator, right? Because that is not fair. I'm definitely not saying that. But among the predators, they tend to be in these positions of trust where they have access to somebody else's child. All right. So if you are a man and you with a woman who has a daughter, do not touch her. I don't care if she's over 18 or under 18. Don't touch her, because it's wickedness. That'll keep you out of all the trouble. It's just that simple. And I might add, don't be in secluded places for extended amounts of time. You don't need to be around somebody else's daughter for hours and hours on a regular basis. Her mother's not there. Her father's not there. Nobody else. You see what I'm saying? You're asking for problems. Keep yourself out of that situation. And if you're always trying to be around somebody's daughter, right, that looks inappropriate to me anyway. I'm going to just be honest with you. So if you're not comfortable with what I'm saying, to not be in those situations, then maybe you're one of those that's trying to be slick and have an excuse to be around somebody's child. So I'm telling you how you won't even be able to be accused. If you're never alone with her, or if you're never alone with her for an extended time on a regular basis, it's going to be much more difficult to even accuse you of anything. So don't even put yourself in that. Avoid the very appearance of evil is what the scripture says. Oh, but I forgot. Some of y'all don't want to hear the scriptures, but you're going to hear those scriptures from the police and the judge in another way. They going to say you're going to jail for this many months or years, and they not going to quote a verse. Instead of quoting the book, chapter, and verse like I'm doing, Leviticus is the book, the chapter is 18, the verse is 17. They're going to book you into prison, right? And then you're going to wish somebody had read this chapter and verse to you. So that's how you prevent this from happening. But this is the Old Testament, ain't it? You see? The New Testament doesn't explain it all the way down to the T about incest, though it talks about it a little bit. Now let me get this in the New American Standard Bible as well, so you can see it, the same verse. So this time I'm going to read Leviticus chapter 18 in the New American Standard Bible. What verse was that? 17. It says, "You shall not uncover the nakedness of a woman and of her daughter, nor shall you take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter." That would be her grandchildren, right? Granddaughters. "To uncover her nakedness. They are blood relatives." Do you see that? Then it says, "It is an outrageous sin." That's what it meant when it said it was wickedness. That's outrageous. So with that being said, there's many other things in this chapter, but I just wanted to show you directly how this Bible can help you prevent from getting caught up in a situation like Brother Polight, and it can help you prevent others from doing that, because you have men in the so-called African-American black community, right, that are attracted to somebody's daughter that's going through puberty. So it would be much better to put them in check with God's word, right, to keep them from doing it in the first place. Also, perhaps we should set up some sort of anonymous safe space, if you can even call it that, for these jokers who's struggling with that before they do the act. In other words, if you know or you suspect someone of having these type of tendencies, or if it happens to be you yourself, we might have to create some kind of safe space as men where we can talk to these brothers, look, even anonymously, right, about what they're struggling with in their mind and their spirit and their heart before they put their hands on somebody's daughter, right? Not shame them. That's if they confess and try to get this thing right before they mess up. Or they're going to have to go to private therapy or something. But something has to be done. It's not good enough just to talk about stuff after it happened, right? We need to try to work towards preventing it from happening, because we cannot allow our women, our sisters, our daughters, you understand, nieces, we can't allow them to be sexually abused if it's something we can do about it. And if you help even one person to not do this, or you help this to not happen to one person, then guess what? You have made a difference. So with that, I hope you all have a good day, and Stay tuned. I'll probably be posting some more on this topic in different bits and pieces as the time passes.